it's not like a separate category
Yeah.
anymore. And I
Yeah,
and I think
exactly.
we're maybe going to seeing that I don't really see I'm a vintage dealer. I work with vintage secondhand, and it's more like, well, interiors. I think maybe the new normal will be in the future that we don't, oh, this is new, this is, vintage or secondhand. It's like everything will mix.
Welcome to my video cast titled Zachwyty, which translates from Polish to delights. I'm Anna from Gdańsk, Poland, where I run my vintage rentals business. Here, I chat with inspiring individuals who have turned their passion for vintage and antiques into unique businesses. Heidi, I'm so happy to have you here today. I was immediately drawn to your Instagram account because I totally adore your inventory. You've got pretty much everything that I love. Hand embroidered and hand woven cushions. You've got tapestries, candle holders, including those in pewter, which I think here in Poland, at least, that's my take, are totally underrated. Just, yeah, pretty much everything I adore. And also, I was very much intrigued by the fact that your account is in English, even though you're based in Sweden. You're Swedish, and so I immediately wanted to talk to you. So thank you for joining me today.
Well, thank you for reaching out. It's going to be exciting talking about my business. I mean, that's the best way to start your day.
That's great to hear. So can you tell us a bit more about yourself, your Instagram profile, what it is called, and how you got started in the vintage industry?
Yes, yes, I would love to. I run a business called Vintage Works. I sell vintage interiors, and we specialize in affordable vintage art, textiles, bespoke lighting, both, candle holders, as you mentioned, and electric lighting. And I'm based in Sweden. I source everything in Sweden, and we ship worldwide. And I actually thought about this a couple of days ago and realized that almost everything we offer is actually for your walls. Uh, Obviously, but also most of the textiles we offer are wall hanging, and also wall sconces, and also most of the lamps we have a bit of table lamps, but also lots of wall lamps. So yeah, just that's just a fun fact.
Yeah, that is true. I actually forgot to mention that your art, which I just love the category on your website with your art. It's great.
Thank
So, but we talked before, and you mentioned that you were driving back and forth. You were commuting to work,
you.
listening to many podcasts on starting a business. But I wonder, was it more this passion for running a business of your own, or for vintage itself, for vintage home decor that
I
started the whole thing?
I think maybe both. As you mentioned, I was in a very stable job, a good stable job. It was a government position. It was nothing wrong with it at all. But I was living in Stockholm at the time, and on the subway, commuting. Lots of people, very crowded, and I was listening to these entrepreneurial podcasts. About mindset, following your dream. And
Yeah.
it was just to that point that I felt, if I don't do something now, I will listen to this for, until I retire.
Yeah.
And I will wonder what happened. So it was kind of, I felt I have to try this. But I've also been, my professional background is within real estate. I've worked really real estate and people. I worked as a real estate agent for almost 10 years.
Okay.
And then I worked with really planning of government premises. I worked with developing old people's homes for people with special needs, and also working with strategic planning of the police department's government premises in Sweden. So, um, but I think I've always seen myself as someone that runs runs my own business. I want to be my own boss. And I was kind of doing that working as a real estate agent, because that's very different to working with the government. So I really tried both. And I started, this business of mine has evolved. So it really started, I actually checked my Instagram account yesterday for preparing for this interview. And my first post was in January 2021 when I was listed something for sale. So I had this as a side hustle for like 1.5 years before I took the leap, and I've been doing it full time now for 1.5 years. So I've had, plenty of time to, testing and figuring things out, even though um, I have, I'm still feeling I'm still, in the beginning, but I think it's, that's maybe a good recommendation for someone who wants to start out, that you don't have to quit your day job straight away. You can, you can do both.
You
And
can do both. Yeah, I
yeah.
totally agree. And I think this is the case with many people whom I talk to here in the video cast, that it either started as a side hustle, or they are still at this stage of a side hustle, and we talk about it openly, and yeah, this is the way to follow one's dream. But out of curiosity, were the podcasts you were listening to American, Swedish, or just just
Actually,
wondering?
a mix.
Mhm.
A mix, but and really not like a vintage or an antique podcast. It's more of a business podcast, and from woman perspective, really. So a mix.
How is it to be a woman running a business in Sweden? I wonder, do you have like any supportive network? Do you have any friends maybe who also do it? Do you feel lonely, or do you feel supported?
Well, I mean, sometimes it can feel a bit lonely, especially because I don't have like a physical shop.
Yeah.
I'm an online business, so but I have lots of contacts through my phone, and mostly through Instagram, both with customers and other dealers. So of course, there is a lot of support there, and that's great. But sometimes kind of like this, physical meeting. But yeah, that's the way it is, really. So you have to have that in your private life.
Yeah, exactly,
Meeting real
exactly.
people.
When you're out hunting for vintage pieces,
Hmm.
what catches your eye? Because I'm guessing it's not only those big names and well-known design pieces, although they are good designs, but also about it's. I think that's kind of my feeling by going through your website, that you also just simply appreciate what is handcrafted and genuine in its own sense. Is it? Am I right?
Yes, that's correct. I really, I mean, if you have all the money in the world, I mean, of course you could shop. I mean, the best, the designers and the finest of everything. But that's kind of what I think makes a home special, a room interesting. It's really, the combination of, in Swedish we say high and low. I don't know if you say that in English. Mixing pieces together,
Yeah.
and both something that's maybe costs 10 crowns at a flea market that I digged out somewhere and combined that, and beside it there is maybe a designer piece that is a bit pricey, but the really the combination, I find that makes it personal and exciting, uh, and happy. So that's I love the mix, and I also love it when customers send photos when they bought something and received it, and then when they put it in their own home with their you know existing pieces. I just love seeing that, and how people style and put things together, because I have my style, and I do think that most of the people who buy things from me appreciate my style, but it's really fun to see my pieces in other people's homes and see how I put it together, because I think that's really where the magic happens.
Yeah, with different contexts. I totally agree. It's totally exciting. This is what happens with my pieces that I rent, for example.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
that all of a sudden something that I never imagined how they could be put together. They are put together for a photo shoot or simply like a breakfast buffet somewhere. So
Yes.
that's always exciting to see. But I wonder, what's your aesthetics? What's your favorite pieces that you're on the lookout most often?
Yes, I say that, like, I buy with my heart, and I only buy things that obviously I would keep in my own home, and actually quite often I keep the things. I mean, this is a full-time business, so
Yeah,
it won't work if I keep everything. But sometimes I have
exactly.
to keep something for a couple of months before I'm ready. So something that
I,
really
I've heard that a few times here, you know.
I bet, but something that really, catches my eye and makes me happy, or makes my stomach, just makes me feel something, and and yes, so that's really where we start. But also, I mean, my business is evolving, so I definitely buy with my heart, but I have to have, the business in mind as well. So of course, okay, how will this ship? Is it possible to ship? And so the business part is also very important in, deciding, will this be worth my time, really?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
what do, if it's a painting, will this need to be restored? I have a great professional framer I work with, and just say, oh, is this something that he could do? uh, Timing, cost, and yeah, I mean, there's so many things to consider, and I'm actually saying no much more often now than I did before. And I think that's also it's really hard to say no and not pick those things up that I really like. But um, yeah, it's more. There are many aspects to consider, and also the patina. I love, I mean, objects with patina, but there's also, you want that perfect patina, and
I
so
know
and
what you
that's
mean.
something that you can't. I mean, you can't, do that yourself. It just has, it has to have that. So yeah, there are many aspects, but
Yeah, and also the electrical parts of the.
yes, so I have all my lamps rewired. So, I mean, both for safety reasons, of course, but also aesthetic reasons. And so all my lamps always go to a professional electrician. And usually it's very uncommon that I find something, with a perfect lampshade. So usually I have a lampshade maker that I have, as I love textiles and vintage fabrics, so I buy that a lot, and then you kind of combine that perfect lamp base with the perfect shade, and that is a fun process.
Yeah,
It can be a long one too, but it's usually worth the wait, because then you have something really unique.
totally. And
Yeah.
when you rewire the lamps, do you rewire them for the UK standards? Because we haven't really mentioned that yet here, that you ship a lot to the UK. So do you do that as well, or?
No, that's a good question. They are required to EU standard.
Hmm.
So the UK unfortunately has a different system, and I'm getting these questions a bit about, rewiring and changing, and I have spoken to my electrician about it, and we'll see if it's something we can do it, and all the regulations and stuff. So we'll see if that, I mean, that would be great if I could offer that, but Yeah, we'll see. At the moment, it's EU standard. Yeah.
Mm. And do you observe any differences in what customers from different parts of the world are seeking when it comes to vintage items?
I think overall, I mean, Swedish design is, I say, has a very good reputation.
Oh,
Uh,
yes, it does.
and especially so I deal with really Swedish pieces from the 20th century, like the first half of the 20th century. Usually, I mean, it's not that it has to be this or that, but that's usually where I am. So it has a really good reputation. I mean, really worldwide, and quality and craftsmanship. So um, I would say that since I am shipping more outside of Sweden and within Sweden,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that I have. Oh, I mean, in the UK they only buy this. In the US, I should say, it. No, I haven't seen those trends.
Because when I talk to people here, mainly from Poland, they often can name things that they ship a lot to Korea, for
Yeah,
example,
yeah,
that or like I don't know, some vases that would never even sell here,
mm,
having been shipped to Turkey, and we
yeah,
just wonder like how
yeah.
what affects these trends. So so I'm always curious about that, and also. So where are you based in Sweden? Is it south of Sweden or?
Yes, it's in southern Sweden, in a very small town called Laholm. So it's really quite close to Denmark. There is a bridge between Malmö and Copenhagen. So I can really there's a direct train from here to Copenhagen in like
Hmm.
2 hour train ride. So I actually get a bit of Danish pieces too, but mostly it's Swedish stuff. So we're close to the continent. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There are a lot of Poles going to Denmark, sourcing vintage,
Yes, yes.
and yeah, there is also a good number going to Sweden, of course, but maybe not so many who are based in the south of Poland.
Yeah.
Probably more from the north. And how do you stay ahead of trends? Do you stay ahead of trends, or do you follow them?
I don't follow trends, like not
Yeah.
professionally or personally,
Hmm.
privately, but um I think that I'm, finding my company's really our voice and our style. And I really felt that that we're really, finding what we're good at and what's popular. So of course, my business will evolve over time, and I mean, who knows what I will be offering in a couple of years. But at the moment, no, I mean, I wouldn't say that, oh, I think that pillows will be big next year. So you have sales space. No, not that. I think that the what I offer can really be, I mean, combined with things you have in your home. And I think that art will always be relevant, um, and maybe just being more and more important, really,
Yeah,
because it's really personal, and it can really affect your mood and how you feel.
yeah.
And if you look at lighting, I mean, we live in Sweden. It's dark
Mhm.
9 months of the year. No, I mean, lighting is really both. I mean, I
Crucial.
think lighting should be beautiful, both lit and, as is.
Yeah.
Uh, and also that, I mean, lighting is so important, especially when you live in, Northern Europe. So I don't think that will go out of fashion.
No, no, it won't, totally. You said you live in the south of Sweden, quite close to Denmark. Is it
Mhm.
like a good place for vintage shopping, would you say? Is it like a rich geographic area, rich in vintage items?
Yes, I would say so. I mean, we lived in Stockholm before, and moved here like 1.5 years
All
ago.
right.
So, I mean, this is a great, and my parents live in the area, so always, when visiting them, being out hunting.
Yeah.
And so it is a great area for vintage, antique, secondhand, whatever. So definitely. So I mean, most of the the paintings that I have are actually by artists that are from this area,
All right.
or
Local artists. Oh, how
yes,
exciting.
this part of Sweden, or studied here, or were here during the summers. This is a bit of a summer uh, destination.
All right. Okay.
So it's not that often that I maybe have a painting from a painter who lived in northern Sweden. So it is quite local, actually.
But speaking of northern Sweden, do you ever travel for, curating your vintage items across Sweden, or you focus?
I would say that, I mean, there are so many great places here in the local area. Of course, a couple of hours here and there,
Yeah,
but
yeah, of course.
so I haven't felt the need, but so I'm always on sourcing mode. So wherever I go, then with the family, I always I'm out there checking things out. But no, I would say it's pretty local. Uh, but then there are also all those online auctions as well that I follow, of course. Uh, but
So you
more,
source online as well. Okay.
yes, yes. But
Mm.
most of the sourcing is actually quite local and hands-on.
Does it vary depending on the season as well? Because I mean, that's kind of my picture of, because I often travel to Sweden. You know, my husband is Swedish,
Yeah,
so there are frequent trips there.
yeah.
But mostly, not only, but mostly in the summer, and summer seems like the best season of
Yes,
all.
I would say that if you, I mean, are in your car, in on the countryside, or really you could be almost anywhere. There are just
Yeah,
signs, loppis, loppis,
yeah, yeah.
everywhere.
That was probably one of the first words I learned in
Yeah,
Sweden.
great word.
Lapis.
So yeah, it's definitely, I mean, during summer, and there are lots of, places opening up maybe after Easter and until, August, September. So there are definitely, I mean, then there are also, different quality and
Of
what
course.
they offer. So uh,
Yeah, I would like to talk a little bit more about that soon, actually, about, the vintage
mhm.
shopping scene in Sweden specifically. Whether I wonder if it is like really crowded in a sense. I mean, Sweden is not a very crowded country per
So,
se. But I mean, like, whenever you're out and about curating your vintage pieces, do you like recognize your competitors? Do you ever chat with
mhm.
any? Do you feel like, the competition
Well, I,
taking
I have
place?
never been pulling things from other people. I mean, there are. I would say. I mean, this business is actually very, very friendly and helpful, and it's kind of like a cheering each other on mentality that I really like.
Yeah, that's
And of
nice.
course, there are a couple of markets that I now going back to, and I have a couple of favorite vendors, of course. But no, I haven't yet felt that it's too crowded. No,
Yeah,
and
that's
it's
that's
also
good.
that, I mean, I source from very different places. I don't want to just source from. Don't want to put all my eggs in one box. So
Yeah.
it's very it's a wide net.
Yeah, it's a wide net, and it's
Yeah.
your way of supporting this net as well. I mean,
Yes,
everyone is,
yes.
yeah,
Keeping everyone in business.
exactly, exactly. So, but are there many resellers in Sweden who work like you, meaning like source in Sweden and ship abroad? Is it like a popular business model? If you don't
And
mind answering this question, just
well, I mean, my world of that is really, just Instagram and
yeah,
what I've seen there. So I would say there are a few. Maybe that most of the dealers I see, they also have a shop. that's maybe open once or 2 or 3 times a week. And then they also have a website, or they sell on other website as well. So maybe that's a bit more common that you have both a brick and mortar store and your online sales.
Yeah, I want to actually talk about your Instagram as well, but before that, I wonder if, because what I've seen also on Instagram was that you sometimes do those pop-up stores. Am I
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, yes, I did last summer. I had a pop-up store really for June, July, August, so it was quite a long time. And I thought that could be really just fun. That's one of the benefits of running your own business. You can really try, and
Yeah,
you don't know until you try, and that's
exactly.
something I really like. And you don't have to ask permission.
Yeah. You just test your ideas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, here in Laholm, there are so many beautiful old buildings, and it's a really cute little city center. And well, actually, when we moved here, I walked past this beautiful building. It's almost like a bit of a stable-ish style, and I thought, oh, that, I mean, it was empty, and I immediately thought this would be, a great place to have something. And so I knocked on the door, and we had a great conversation. And so I ended up, renting it for 3 months, just testing
Yeah.
testing it, and it was a great experience. But I think also I learned that I'm I kind of like the online model as well,
Yeah.
in terms of freedom and how
Yeah.
I can plan my time. Because even though I
Exactly.
was maybe just open 2 3 times a week, um, I felt I felt a bit stuck, actually, because, and I mean, when you're selling vintage items and pre-loved, it's not that I mean, a lot of my time is focused on
Yeah.
sourcing new pieces, and that takes a lot of time. It's not like when you're selling new stuff, you can
Yeah.
just,
Yeah. You can
order.
restock all the time
Yeah,
the
you can
same
just
piece.
restock.
Yeah.
And I think that is a very big difference, and maybe that's something that people don't always consider, that um, it takes a lot of time. So for me, having my web shop and my website, I think, is the way to go. And it also felt a bit sometimes, I was there and no one came in, or maybe
Yeah.
just one person came in, but I had sales in my web
Yeah.
shop, so that was
Yeah.
good. And so I just felt, no, I think that I found my business model, and I would definitely like to do more pop-ups, but maybe in during a shorter period and
Mm-hmm.
together with other people.
Yeah, I
So we,
wonder if there are any like vintage fairs. I mean, there are Loppies, of
mm,
course, those,
yeah,
but are there more like, like in the UK where you have those big events
yes,
with more curated
yeah,
pieces
yeah.
by vintage resellers? Are there any events like that in Sweden?
Yes, there are plenty, and I think that everything, when COVID hit, everything, so after that, I've heard that people that's been in the business for a long time say that, oh, it's not as good anymore, and lots of people quit and hasn't really found their ground after that. But definitely, and last year I attended Stockholm Antique Fair.
Okay.
That's quite a big fair. So I mean, there are definitely many places, be everywhere, uh, but it's yeah, definitely doing something like that, but maybe not
Mm,
3 months.
yeah. Yeah, I know. I totally get that. It's time consuming and also could be in a way, I mean, not a waste of time because you get to meet the people and also like discover their needs. Probably
Yeah,
there are different needs than those of the customers that you sell online to. So it's definitely an exciting thing to test and to see for yourself. But I can totally imagine that sitting in a shop while you have sales online
yeah.
is not something that is simply but easy. So speaking of Instagram, because
Hmm.
your Instagram profile is pretty impressive in terms of you've got it covered, from A to Z, meaning you have a good bio with those well thought keywords. You have highlighted stories. You have like a photo of yourself pinned to your feed. I mean, things that sometimes we all forget to do because we're so busy running our business, but you've got
Yes.
it all. And I wonder, do you do like those Instagram live sales or drops of inventory in like a single post, or do you redirect entire traffic to your website? What's
Well,
your
to start
strategy?
off with, thank you. But like when I started this, I like I didn't really have Instagram. I didn't know how to post like a story, so I had to
Yeah.
Google it, and I was so nervous. And like I'm really not tech savvy at all, and I don't
Hmm.
really know how you make reels. So I
Really?
no,
Okay.
so
Well,
anyone
one can't tell.
anyone can do it, really. It's so easy. But I mean, really, Instagram is, I don't think I would have a business without Instagram. And I mean, I don't have that many followers. So definitely not an influencer or
Mhm.
anything like that.
Yeah,
So
but we all know sometimes we don't need like a huge audience to make sales. So
exactly. So it's really, finding your audience
exactly.
to speak to. So Instagram is really important, and lots of. I mean, before I had my website, and even now after my website, I mean, I have lots of conversations with customers and loyal returning customers, and it almost feels that you're friends with people. So that's great. And also, yeah, just getting inspiration. Uh, but I mean, I have my website, and I do most of my sales on my website. But I think usually, I mean, I think Instagram is the first place where people maybe discover me, and then maybe we have a conversation in DM, and then they go to the website. But of course, I work with designers and other dealers as well, and
Mhm.
that's the part that I really enjoy doing more and more of. That there's a client saying, "I'm looking for this and that," and then I source it, and then it doesn't even hit the website.
Yeah, that's probably the best way,
Yes,
having those contacts, those
yes,
requests.
the whole style.
Yeah,
Maybe
exactly.
maybe someone's just doing up a house and needs couple of pieces of this and that. Uh, so that I mean, that's really great to have the website and those
Yeah.
sourcing requests, really.
But when you were setting up your website, was it like from the beginning in English with this in mind that you want to cater to international customers, or?
Yes, my website has always been in English, but
Mhm.
my Instagram account, I started writing in Swedish, uh, but then actually my first customer was from the UK, uh, and most of the questions were from English speaking people. And I mean, in Sweden, most of us in Sweden, we are pretty good at English. So
Yeah,
for a
yeah,
while, I wrote both in Swedish and in English, and I think this is just taking
too
too much
much.
time. And where do I see myself being in the future? So my mom's Canadian, so
All right.
it's really difficult for me to do it in English.
Yeah,
So
that's
um,
great. Yeah.
I think pretty quick I wrote in English. So yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I also do this with my other account with my web shop that I do only in
Mm,
English. I just thought it was too much hassle writing both in Polish and in English. And also because like the biggest chunk of my customers is based internationally, even though the larger proportion of audience is Polish. So I always feel, a bit like, what do I do? But
yeah.
one needs to kind of, well, find what's the best for our businesses.
Yes,
But
exactly.
I wonder, having a website, I know how having a web shop, I know all about it.
Yeah.
Do you have any, like, I mean, all about like the challenges. I wonder if you had any challenges, running, starting a website,
Oh
any
my
lessons
goodness.
learned?
Where do I start? Like, I am so, I'm, as I told you before, I'm not, tech savvy in any way. So it's quite kind of fun that I have like an online business,
Yeah.
and I'm a late adopter to everything. I think I got my parents forced me to have a cell phone when I think was 18, 19, and I was going to
Wow.
study, and they're like, you have to have a cell phone and an email address so we can.
Yeah.
So I'm really really late in all those parts, but um, I use Shopify, and that I can really recommend their platform. And I start off with this, the cheapest free version, and then you build it yourself. And now I don't think I think it's really easy and user friendly, but then I was just like, oh, yeah, I thought it was a big challenge for me to set that up, and it took me months. But actually, it's yeah, when you've done it once, that's like with everything. It gets easier the second time.
Yeah,
Uh,
but do you do also like any blog posts, or do you in any way work on your SEO?
Well, actually, I am redesigning my website now, and this time I'm working with two professionals. So,
Okay.
working with a woman who's a copywriter, and I'm working with a person who we will still use Shopify, but we will code it and
You're making
customize.
more personal, so the
Yes,
design reflects more your style and
yes. So I'm very excited about that, and we'll be launching in May.
oh
Uh,
wow,
so
soon.
we're
Mhm.
working hard at that, and that is of course with SEO in mind, because it doesn't matter how beautiful I think my website is if no one can find it. So
Exactly, exactly.
there would definitely be much more text. And with those, things in mind.
I've been working on it on and off. I know a lot about it. I mean, in a sense, how much also time and work and effort it takes, and not to mention the blog posts, which
Yes, and I mean, I don't know about you, but I mean, that's not my profession. And
no, neither is mine. No, it's all self-taught.
yes,
So
yes, I mean, in the beginning, you really, yeah, well, still now, I mean, if you have to do everything yourself, but then it comes to a point that, oh, maybe if I pay someone, expert this amount, I can, focus on what I'm good at,
exactly.
and hopefully I will it will be worth it.
Yeah, definitely.
Uh,
It's also like, a stage of one's business to let go certain things. I mean, not
yes.
let go as in also this, like to give up on things that maybe do not bring that much benefit or benefit at all, but also to delegate
Prioritize, really. I
and
mean,
prioritize.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's going to be very exciting to
Hmm.
see what difference it will
Yeah.
make. Yeah.
But speaking more about, challenges, because
Hmm.
running any business comes with a set of unique challenges.
Yes.
Were there any in particular that you had to overcome that you'd like to share with us today?
I mean, there are, I would, challenges every day, every week. I mean, they're different. I mean, sometimes something can feel like, oh, this is a huge challenge, and then you solve it, and oh, it wasn't that bad. But I would actually say that I thought about this, and I don't feel that there's been like a huge, really challenge that this was really monumental to my
Yeah.
business. But that's also a thing with running your own business. Like, you learn every day,
Hmm.
every week,
Yeah,
and that's really satisfying. And
it
I
is.
have, for example, when I'm considering now when I'm outsourcing, what I'm offering, and what I'm buying, and that also that I'm saying no to a lot of things, and not buying. as much as before, and to, buying better. Um,
More
I
considerate
have,
decisions. Yeah.
yes, exactly. And for example, with floor lamps, that's kind of a story that, I mean, I think floor lamps are beautiful, and I actually sold, this classic mid-century three-arm floor lamp that they're Swedish. I think they're quite common here, but I sold it to a client in the US. And before I really checked shipping and all those things,
Yeah.
and it turned out that it was so tall, so it was really hard even finding a courier that, would
Yeah.
ship it because it was just a bit too tall, and I couldn't, deconstruct it. And then I couldn't find a box, so my husband spent like half a day building this box. It was just, I mean, ridiculous. If we added all the hours and the time, then the shipping cost like
Yeah.
twice as much as we expected. But in the end, the customer was really happy. It's a loyal returning. So that was, but it's
So
also
it
like
paid off. This effort paid off, but
it
at the
paid
beginning.
off, but also a lesson that I don't think I will, focus on floor lamps moment. So even though I see beautiful floor lamps at a very good price point, if I add up, building the box and the hassle with shipping, uh, I will focus my time on, other things that are
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
that makes more sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Any other challenges that you'd like to share?
I mean, I think there's been, with shipping, and since shipping is such a big part of my business, because
I'm sorry I'm laughing. It's just like, shipping is always something that comes up in these conversations.
yes, and I would say that I'm be very lucky so far at, parcels haven't, disappeared, or
Yeah.
very few have broken, um, and so on. But, really trying to negotiate with these shipping companies, they're these huge companies. I'm a really small, minuscule customer to them, and just, understanding, I mean, getting a good rate as possible,
Yeah.
and making sure that, I mean, I mean, if a customer buys something from me, I really feel responsible for the whole process. And I mean, their shipping experience will really fall back on me. So that, I mean, that's really, really important.
Yeah,
Uh,
totally.
so really finding also what companies are best, for different countries.
I know something about it. Different companies work, yeah,
Very differently, and really
differently.
now I think the last couple of years, I mean, shipping has really, like, the price point has really increased, and all these extra charges here and there that you get afterwards. So
Yeah.
that, and I want it to be, easy for my customers, and I don't want to be any, negative surprises. So um, I spend a lot of time looking at the shipping process and trying to optimize it, and also, just buying the boxes. So my pieces are, they're all unique. So not that I can buy, okay, I'll buy, 50 of these boxes, different sizes, and
Yes,
of,
exactly.
of course I always want to, reuse material if it's possible. But now I need to buy boxes because I
Yeah.
run out. And also when shipping art, that's also been, a lesson, and the sizes. And
Yeah,
now finally I found a great, like, an art box. But those things take time and they cost a lot of money. And
exactly. Yeah. And calculating it all also takes a lot of
mm,
time. This I also know about. It's it's just really time consuming and sometimes stressful. Like you have to ship something and all of a sudden you realize you don't have the exact box.
yes,
So
yes, exactly. No, I feel totally the same way. You just want to ship as, as quickly as possible.
yeah. And I
Uh,
also like always try, to have as much as possible. Not always it is possible, but like
Mhm.
recycled cardboards that I don't know, even I smash, just like I use them for
Yeah.
to protect from breaking, you know.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
have this neighbor who always drops me his empty
Oh,
boxes at
perfect.
my entrance door,
Yeah.
and I always find, like, you know, you find it so, I mean, it's super nice, and you know,
Yeah.
it always puts a smile on my face. I
Yeah.
open the door, oh, a stack of new boxes, how exciting! So,
Perfect.
that's the way to go as well. Let's go back to the, you know, vintage shopping scene in
Mhm.
Sweden. So as I already said, I travel quite a lot there, and each time I'm there, I'm going vintage shopping, of
Yeah.
course. But I would love you to tell us more about, you know, where to go to. I mean, in a sense, like, because Sweden is unique in its own sense that you have the auctions, you have the thrift stores. I mean, like charity
Mm.
stores with secondhand goods. You have loppies. Yeah, tell us what different places there are out there.
I mean, there's so many different places, and I think that overall in Sweden, I think that like secondhand goods and vintage is just getting more and more accepted and also more
Mm-hmm.
and more popular, both when it comes to interiors and clothing.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, almost cool and trendy way. But still, I mean, there's still room for a lot more people to shop. So
Yeah. Yeah.
and I would say that I would in every Swedish town, like even a small town, there is some kind of charity shop.
Yeah.
It's if it's the Red Cross or the church or the school local soccer team donate to and they sell. So I think that I mean the secondhand scene is quite good in Sweden, and there's room for improvement. And there are lots of websites where people can sell things that they don't want anymore. And
Can you name a few just
yeah,
so?
so Tradera is a big site. Blocket is a big site. But I mean that's a mix of
Wait,
everything.
speaking of Tradera, they actually ship internationally as well.
I think
With
it's up to the seller to decide,
right, it's up to the
because
seller. Oh
both Tradera
yeah,
and Blocket consists of, I mean, it's private people.
yeah,
I think businesses too. So
yeah.
I mean, you have to really check when
Mm-hmm.
you're
And
buying.
then Facebook Marketplace is also quite
Yes, yeah.
common among people, I would say.
Mm. So it's just getting better and better. And then, I mean, you can just, if you're going to a town, I mean, just Google, and if you're lucky, and if it's during the summertime, maybe they'll have this, open air auction and market. So
Which
there's
is an experience in itself.
yes, yes.
Mm.
So bring cash if you don't have the Swish, like the Swedish
Hmm.
with your cell phone.
Yeah, Swish is and a method for payment
Yes.
with
Yeah.
a cell phone in Sweden. Yeah, I know it's always like, Tanya, my sister-in-law. Now we have Swish, but there was a time we didn't, because we obviously live in Gdańsk in Poland. So there was
Yeah.
a time we didn't have Swish, and it was like, Tanya, can you Swish
Yeah.
for
You
me,
need it
please?
in Sweden. Yeah. You're in Sweden.
So
Uh,
that's. I hope it's going to change though, because there is some EU regulation that maybe it will be like, you know, universal for
well, we'll see.
hopefully
Yeah.
would make my life easier.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
And there's so many, I mean, and you could just go to the local food shop, and maybe, in the entrance hall, there you can put up the posts of, advertisement for different
Yeah.
things. And if you're in a smaller town, maybe you'll find advertisement for a loppis or
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
driving around.
Yeah, that's what I always show on
Fine.
my Instagram stories while in
Yeah.
Sweden, like going to a library, a supermarket,
Yes.
or in the somewhere in the market in the center of the
Yeah.
town. There is like this board with
Exactly. Yeah, you'll see
notes
it.
that
And I mean, Instagram is great as well. Just connecting with people and finding places.
And do you ever go to auctions? Is it your way as well? Do you like it?
Yes, I go to auctions, but every now and then, I just like it takes such a long time.
Yeah,
Usually,
that's why I'm asking.
the pieces I want, they always come after 6 months. So I may be a bit too. I don't really have the patience. I mean, I've definitely waited. I waited in the rain. I waited in the cold. If it's a good piece, but um, I'm doing it less and less just because it's usually very, very time consuming,
Yeah,
and you never know. I mean,
yeah,
really what the competition is. So I mean, I
true.
prefer it if I can buy something, straight away.
Yeah. But speaking of this, growing popularity of vintage as such in
Mhm.
Sweden, do you think why is it happening? Is it like, I mean, I kind of know the answer,
Yeah,
I watch a lot of Swedish TV, I listen to Swedish radio, but I think that it is a hot topic, it's been for a good couple of
yeah,
years, like mainstream TV, morning shows, I don't know, there are TikTokers, Instagram influencers.
yeah.
What else would you say?
Well, just as you mentioned, I think that it's not like a separate category
Yeah.
anymore. And I
Yeah,
and I think
exactly.
we're maybe going to seeing that I don't really see I'm a vintage dealer. I work with vintage secondhand, and it's more like, well, interiors. I think maybe the new normal will be in the future that we don't, oh, this is new, this is, vintage or secondhand. It's like everything will
Yeah, you're
mix.
probably ahead of Poland in this term, but I mean, vintage is definitely popular here. I'm not saying that. It's just like maybe that we are not just yet there in terms
Mm,
of like not differentiating
mm.
and
Yeah, and
putting.
maybe that's a bit extreme. That's maybe more,
Mm,
my personal way of seeing it. But
yeah.
I'm hoping that that's the way we're moving towards, because I mean
Hmm.
it's definitely
Yeah, I
it's
would
better
say
for
I
the
would. That's my
environment.
observation as well. So yeah,
And I mean, if you buy a lamp that's made in China, or and it's shipped here, and you don't know, I mean, the quality, the working conditions, and there are a lot of things to consider.
yeah.
It is popular, and it's getting more and more popular, and it should.
So what's your speaking of this you said it should, do you have
Yeah.
any dreams regarding the vintage industry in, yeah, both in Sweden, in the world?
Worldwide.
Yeah,
uh, well, I think um with it's better for everyone. I mean, not at least for the environment that we see, and what we use, that's already been produced. And so that's one aspect of it, and also that the pieces that were made, in the 1950s or earlier, are often made, in the quality and the craftsmanship and the materials. I mean, if something like that would be made today, it would be top of the line. It would be so expensive that most of us can't afford it. So you really get a unique, interesting piece that no one else has. So and well, to me, I think that's much more exciting than having a catalog home that looks the same as
yeah, that doesn't really reflect our spirit in a sense, because I
no,
think
no.
that's the thing about like vintage, you can express yourself in so many
Yes,
different ways. And
yes,
what you said in the beginning that I loved, that you don't need to focus on, I don't know, like the big names and well-known design pieces. You can
yeah,
mix it, and in the mix each of them can be appreciated more even.
yes, exactly. And then the room will sing. uh, and I really love also with those like with the pieces with patina, that also that they can be rearranged, and it can change the entire room or the feeling, and you don't always have to buy something new. It, Often you can just rearrange, and you can even change the lampshade, and if it doesn't feel right. And
Exactly.
also with good pieces, that if you feel like, oh, this is not really my style anymore, you can sell it. I mean, because it will keep its value if it doesn't. So that's also an aspect.
Yeah, that I love about like good vintage pieces, that I
Yeah,
always have this, like conviction that, okay, well, if I'm not gonna like it after a couple of months, I just sell it. And then
just
it's so satisfying as well to sell
yeah,
it, and sometimes to sell it more expensive, like for more than I bought it. So that
yeah.
makes it even nicer. So there are certain questions that I always, ask my
Mhm,
guests. So I'm
mhm,
also curious to hear your take. What advice would you give to someone who is interested in starting their own vintage home decor business? And is
mhm.
there anything, looking back on your journey, anything you wish you had known when you first started out in this industry?
My first advice would be just, I mean, go for it, but you don't have to, quit your daytime job yet. I mean, go for it. I mean, it's not really that hard. You don't have to have a proper website. You don't have to have a, professional camera and all this. I mean, um, use Instagram, try it out and see if you enjoy it, and start that way. Start small. Uh,
Mm,
and I mean, you can do that for quite some time, um, beside your, daytime job, maybe. Just so you don't have maybe that stress of, I have to bring in the money, because
yeah,
maybe that
but
will, kill your passion.
exactly. But you also said something very important, like see if you enjoy it, because running a vintage home decor business is so much more than just curating vintage items.
That's
It's
so true. And I think it's a very big difference of, going to Loppisar, buying things you like for your home, taking photos, posting it on your private Instagram,
yeah,
having lots of, conversations. And it's not at all the same as running it as a full-time business. I mean, that is a big a big difference. Yeah, I mean, see if you enjoy it, because I think that
mm,
enjoyment is so
mm,
important, uh,
yeah,
in everything, but I think especially in this. So don't wait, start, but don't quit
mhm.
your daytime job. And what was the other question?
Uh, so if you looked,
Oh,
on your journey, looked back on your journey, if there
mhm.
is anything you wish you had known from
Well,
the start.
usually I don't really look back that much. I'm
You don't
more,
have time for it, do you?
uh, but maybe just, and I still have to tell myself that things take time, and they take longer than you usually expect. And it doesn't mean that it's not, going to happen, or it's not going
Exactly.
well, but it
Hmm.
takes time. It takes time to build an audience, and one sale will lead to another sale, but maybe there will be a couple of months in between. So
Yeah.
it takes time, and if it would be something, I should have done this sooner.
For vintage enthusiasts visiting Sweden, maybe first let's start with your own home area. You already mentioned that it's a beautiful place. What would you consider an absolute must visit destination? It doesn't need to be like a vintage shopping experience. It could be also like, I don't know, some museum or something like that. But yeah, feel free to
Yes.
recommend.
Well, I mean, the area where we live, Halland, it's really a beautiful area. It's by the coast, and it is, close to the continent. If you come from there,
Yeah.
I would say that the train in Sweden is really good. So if go by train, that's a great alternative. And there's so many great places. I think around my area, I think Mölle is a beautiful area, and there are actually vineyards there. You can buy Swedish wine,
Okay.
and it's down by the harbor. It's really really sweet, and you can go hiking. And of course, in Laholm, where I live, there is a beautiful big park here. And then there is the Teckningsmuseum, like drawings.
Uh-huh.
I think that's the only one in Scandinavia, like a museum of drawings. And it's actually a really beautiful building too.
That
So
sounds really
and
nice.
it's also a beautiful building, and they also have, like, if you got kids, they've got like a great area where kids, can draw and use different materials and stuff. So that's a bonus. So there are so many great areas. I just, because you asked me now, I can't come up with any.
Yeah, yeah, no, no, don't worry. It's just like, and for any like, vintage enthusiasts willing to feed their vintage love in Sweden, where would you direct them?
Yes, well, there is actually in Laholm, there is a place. There is, I think it's called Lagaborgs Antique. It's a beautiful big house, and this the couple who owns it, they live upstairs, and I think for over 30 years. They're open every now and then, I think a bit more during summer, but that is a beautiful house, and it's every room is a bit different. So you got the antiques, the dark stuff, and then you got the retro and different time
All
age.
right. Oh, I love places like that. It's
Yes,
like
so
a
that
time capsule, and like
exactly.
you can feel like in a movie scene as well in every other room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe I have to like make a guide and post it on my Instagram or something. Get more time to think about good places. And if you're going up to to Gothenburg, that's not far at all. Actually, a couple of weeks ago, I visited Tjolöholm Slot. Like, it's a beautiful castle with a very interesting past. And if you go to Gothenburg, you can visit this like vintage market that's called Forum. Göteborg.
I follow them on Instagram.
Yeah,
It seems
it's
to be like a huge thing, is it? In
it,
terms
it's
of like
it's a
the
big
venue?
space with
Hmm.
multiple vintage and antique dealers.
Wow.
So it's a curated space, and so I mean, there's just so many different options, and then you have all the the charity shops in every town. That's a win-win.
Yeah, Sweden is like the dream destination for vintage lovers, I would
Yeah,
say.
yes.
It truly is because you have this, like this variety of places as
Mm,
well. It's absolutely exciting. We just don't have that many different places here in
no,
Poland.
yeah.
So it's just completely different experience. And before we wrap up, there is always this one question that I need to ask.
Hmm.
We are in the video cast that is called Zachwyty, which translates to delights. Talk on vintage
Okay.
and antiques. So the question is, what has been, delighting you lately, when it comes to vintage pieces or just anything really, anything aesthetics related.
Yes. I think it was actually just, maybe that's a boring answer, but the other week I just rearranged our furniture a bit in our living room, and I thought it would make such a huge difference, and it was
Mhm.
just with,
I think I saw a post on Instagram.
it was just the same things we have, but just, rearranging them and changing, putting the carpet the other way. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Do
just
you ever do this actually? Sorry to, do you ever do like style your pieces for the for your shop? Do you put them in context?
Yes, I do. Usually, when I take the product photos, or you call it, I usually have a couple of different backgrounds, and it takes a bit of time, but
I
I think it's fun, and I also think it's great to show a painting or a lamp with different backgrounds, just so people can try to envision it in their home. So I try to do that, and sometimes I do it a bit more if I have a bit more time. And lately, it's I haven't done that much, but I'm actually looking forward to doing it a bit more, because I think it's much more appealing.
Yeah, it is. Maybe this, rearranging your room was like a
Exactly.
starting point for the
Yes.
for
Yeah.
styling the vintage pieces. Although, the way you present them on your website is beautiful. It's clear, and the pieces itself, they just speak for themselves, really. Sometimes
Thank
they
you.
don't need to be put in the context, I think. And especially that I imagine a good portion of your customers, they already have this strong sense of aesthetics, and they're on the lookout for, they know what they're on the lookout for, and
Yes.
then
Yeah.
these pieces that just speak to themselves. So
Yeah.
sometimes maybe it's also about those pieces that they can be.
Speak for themselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So thank you very much
Well,
for sharing your, experience and being so generous with your answers. It was really lovely
oh,
chatting
thank
with you.
you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for listening. There are plenty of ways to support my channel. You can buy me a virtual coffee. You can follow my Vintage Rentals Instagram account or check out my shop. For handcrafted ribbons, I make myself, and high quality table candles. And of course, subscribe.